neighborhood. It's gotten a lot rougher since I went away to prison and came home.
You went away when?
I went away in 1994, and I came home in 2003. So I was gone for 8.5 years exactly.
For?
Oh gosh, for a number of crimes. Several indictments. The FBI indicted me, the Secret Service, the Nassau County Organized Crime Task Force. Probably the worst stuff was the hijackings and armed robberies. I had a crew of hijackers. We used to take down heists and scores, and we'd get tips. We'd hijack trucks coming out of Kennedy Airport or wherever. We'd even hijack trucks out of Jersey, and we'd taken loads from New York to Jersey. So
you grew up in it?
I grew up in it, yeah. First time I hijacked a truck was 17. And guys in my neighborhood, I don't know how many, I can't count how many armed robbers I knew in my neighborhood. You know, who lived on 2 blocks down, another guy lived a block down, and they'd go away. They'd go away for 3.5 to 5 years. They'd catch a 7, they'd catch an 8-year bid, and they'd come home and they were idolized.
Idolized?
Yeah, we looked up to these guys. They were tough guys in the neighborhood. And at the same time, as bad as they were the same guys who made sure that the neighborhood stayed clean. That if somebody knocked off the house in the neighborhood, those were the guys that looked for that guy. And until they found him, they didn't quit. And they'd lump him up that if he was lucky, he'd just get some lumps.
You know what's interesting? I'll tell you this, I don't want to get too much into this. First of all, I know you can't name names. And you did name names, which is why you did some of the time you did. That's right. But ironically, one of the things that struck me about the book is that you grew up with this code of omerta, if you will, silence. And ultimately, you were ratted out.
Yeah.
There were people who you were with who didn't have to speak, but said it was you.
That's right.
When that happened, and you took the hit, and you did the time, well, you were offered the opportunity to roll on whomever.
That's right.
Higher up, if you will. There's always somebody higher up.
Always.
Why, once you got nailed by your quote-unquote friends and associates, did you opt to remain silent?
I felt that at the time it was beneath my dignity to cooperate with authorities and point the finger, so to say, against other people when I knew what I was doing. I willingly did it, and far be it from me now to say, hey, I want a break now. Can you guys let me go? I'll tell you exactly what happened. It was beneath my manhood, I guess, at the time. Yeah, that's me in prison. Yeah.
You worked out a lot.
1,000 push-ups a day, 400 or 500 pull-ups a day. I'd do my pull-ups off the bars, hanging from the cell. Some prisons have weight rooms and stuff like that. Some don't.
So. But you know what's interesting? I digress, and I'm going to get to the reading part and the book part because as you say in the book, you stopped cracking skulls and started cracking books.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you still never turned on anyone. You still never gave any names. You did the time. What happens, Lou? And by the way, do yourself a favor, go out and get this book because we're doing a television version of it, and there's so much more here. Unlock the Life and Crimes of a Mafia Insider, Louis Ferrante. Lorraine Bracco, the actress, terrific actress from The Sopranos, she has a quote on the front cover that just says, what a great book this really is. Lou has done an amazing job telling an amazing story of self-education and rebirth during his prison sentence. Rebirth. When did you discover reading, books, and writing?
I was in prison about a year, and I was going to the hole for different things, usually fighting.
The hole meaning solitary?
Solitary confinement. The interchangeable terms are the hole, the box, but it means solitary confinement. And I'd go, get into a fight. I was quick with my hands on the street. I was the same way in prison. If somebody got in my way, I cracked them. If somebody had a knife, I grabbed a bigger knife. So I'm going to the hole, and at one point I went to the hole for something that someone else did. So again, it was beneath me to say, well, the guy next to me did it. He threw an apple at a guard.
I remember this.
Yeah, and
everybody... You never said it was that guy.
I didn't.
But those guys were not in the mob with you. They didn't sign any oath.
No.
Why not say it was that guy? Why would you go to the hole if it was that guy?
Yeah. Again, it was just, I guess, the way we were raised in my neighborhood.
The neighborhood's in you.
Yeah, the neighborhood was in me.
I'm taking away from the reading part. I apologize.
Yeah.
You're in there.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. The other guy throws the apple. Where's the reading come in? Because you said growing up, the only thing that you had to read was a racing form.
Yeah, that's it. My father read the racing form. My mother used to read the magazines out of the garbage. I go to solitary confinement. The decisive moment was I had a beef with the captain of the guards. Problem with him. I had words with him through the food slot. I went to grab his tie through the food slot, and I gave it a tug. It was a clip-on. I pulled it off, and I wanted to strangle the guy. I threw the tie back out through the food slot. I said, you son of a gun.
Right.
It's a clip-on. He says, I remember he pulled out his shirt collar. I'll never forget as long as I live. He says, you think we'd wear real ties with you animals in here. And I'm looking at him through the reinforced glass, and I felt like an animal. And he says, look at you. He says, you're an animal in a cage. He goes, you're in a zoo. You're not allowed to leave this box unless you're chained. And which is correct. You have to be fed through a food slot like an animal in the zoo. And he says, you're an animal. And he slammed the food slot and walked away from me. And something, by the grace of God, clicked in my brain, and I started to think. And I started to dwell. And for the first time in my life, I had questions instead of believing that I was the type of guy who had all the answers, which, you know, in all of my ignorance, I thought I was so intelligent. For a moment, I realized just how dumb I was. And I came out of the hole, and I was with all these mob capos and bosses and underbosses, and they weren't equipped to answer the questions that I had, which were probably more philosophical.
What do you do, read Plato?
Yeah, I started, believe it or not, I did. I called my friend who was the caretaker of the John Gotti Social Club, and said, can you send me some books? And he went, and he actually sent me
Did you send Machiavelli at all, The Prince?
I eventually read that.
Okay.
In time, I did, yeah. And every mobster, you know, wants to quote The Prince, but they never read it.
No, they never read it, but they think
they know.
they're Niccolo Machiavelli.
Exactly. And but I ended up getting Caesar's Gallic Wars, a biography on Napoleon, and Hitler's Mein Kampf, 3 dictators. So I called him up. I says, where'd you get these from? He says, I went to the store. I told the broad at the store all about you, and she gave me those books. I said, what'd you tell her? He says, I told you were short and bossy. With that, she picked 3 books.
Short and bossy. Yeah. So where does writing this 1,200-page manuscript come from reading a few books?
Yeah. Well, I started to read book after book until I was reading a book a day. And I fell in love with reading. At first, it took me weeks to get to a book. And then it took me days, and then eventually it would take me one day. I'd start a book in the morning and finish it at night. And when after becoming an avid reader, after about a year and a half of reading, I said, if a writer could do this, I could do it. I know enough about reading that I feel like I could write.
Right.
And you're a writer yourself. You have to have that confidence, that feeling, and you're a reader. You're an avid reader from when you're young. You have to feel like, gee, if I could read all these books and see exactly what the formula is, I could do it myself. And that's where I got the confidence to put the pen to paper and start writing.
But you were writing on all sorts of things in prison. Our time is running short here. And I remember some of your stuff got thrown away.
It did.
By some of the guards, I believe it was some of the guards. Yeah. But you went back and you said, no, I'm going to write again.
Yeah, I would just toss it up to fate and say, I must have a lot more to learn. And I would start to have a sense of destiny and say, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to do something with my life. And if my papers were lost in a shakedown or a prison riot or what have you, so be it. It must mean that they were horrible, and I have to write better. And I would just pick up the pen and start punching away at it again, and until I got smart and started sending the chapters home to my father. And
protected.
Yeah.
By the way, before I let you out of here, you're going to be writing another book, right?
I am. I'm working on a couple of books right now. That's correct.
Give the message to everybody out there who says, I can't do it, my life is set up for me, and it is, I got the cards that were dealt to me, I'm stuck, screwed, whatever it is.
It takes one split second, a decision, to say that I am going to change myself and to admit your faults, which was very big, to admit that I lived a brutal life and I didn't want to live that life anymore. So whatever the life you're involved in, whether it be criminal or just the monotony of everyday life that you're unhappy with, maybe there are faults in that life. Choose to change and do it.
Louis Ferrante, Unlocked. It's not how you start, it's how you end, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.